As a young woman of color, freshly minted with my master's degree, entering corporate America, I didn't quite fit the profile of the rockstar employee. I know, crazy, right? I didn't have the inclination to put out huge volumes of work at lightning speed, all the while making sure that everybody could attribute that to my rockstar ability. I, my fellow human beings, was a humble introvert. My preference was to work collaboratively with people to solve problems I could see. It meant my work was slower, more deliberate, but still effective. And I, like so many other people in corporate America, found myself navigating a situation where the milestones to make progress in my career were a little bit mushy. And at the beginning of one's career, when there isn't a clear track record of your success, sometimes bias, rather than objectivity, can play a role in if and how you can progress. What was worse, the kind of feedback I'd get early on was, geez, Tajan, you're amazing, we love you, but maybe if you could just network a little bit more, be careful to send those emails to leadership, let them see you winning, let them attribute that to you. In other words, I needed to shapeshift like a human pretzel and become like this rock star. Now, I said to myself, Tajan, you've never shapeshifted a day in your life. And you're not about to start to do that now. Although I was an introvert, my mother raised me to move through the world with a healthy sense of self-esteem, knowing that no one was either above me nor beneath me. So without any brass or any expectation that things would drastically change, I pushed back. I said, I don't know if I can even actually do all of that. And I don't see why I should have to. Why can't this company be a place where somebody like me, as I am, can also thrive? Now, imagine you're an introvert and you're hearing that kind of feedback and you don't have that rock-solid confidence that I had early on in my career. How does that impact you? As a leadership development coach, I've worked with hundreds of clients in diverse industries ranging from tech, startup, the arts, entertainment, and everything in between. And what I know for sure is that when you're actively disqualified because you don't meet that rockstar profile and you don't have rock-solid self-confidence, you're much more likely to interpret this dynamic as a personal problem that you need to solve rather than a company cultural norm that needs to be addressed. Today, I'm here to say that that quest to show and prove that you're worthy is impossible. And low self-confidence has never ever served anyone really well, ever. It's been tragic for me as a coach to witness people with drive and ambition and intelligence become invisible in corporate America. So today, let's change this. Let's become visible. What I've learned from working in corporations is that most companies have some form of rockstar bias. There's a term used to describe this. It's called the halo effect. Edward Thorndike, a psychologist from the 1920s, first defined this term as a cognitive bias where your overall impression of someone is shaped by observing a particular desirable characteristic or attribute. So for example, what's your name?
My name is Will.
All right, let's say we go to a lunch and learn presentation and Will does an incredible presentation. We're all so impressed with him. The halo effect might lead us to also conclude that not only is he a great public speaker, but maybe he's also a fantastic people manager. He probably can execute on that work plan like nobody's business. When really, maybe, just maybe, Will's not much more than a really great public speaker. And another thing that's really interesting, when I'm working inside corporations and I ask folks the question, list to me the attributes of the rockstar person in your company. Invariably, they start to list similar traits. And then when I ask the question, have you all ever felt like you need to show up in this way or even self-conscious because you don't naturally have those attributes? When I ask people to show their hands, if they experience that, invariably, everybody goes like this. Now, even by a show of hands here in the room, how many of you can relate to that feeling? That you need to show up in a way that's different from who you are. Yeah. So in effect, There's an insidious external pressure to show up in this way and a real external reward of coveted work portfolios and even possible promotion when you do. If this kind of rockstar bias goes unchecked in companies, we unintentionally waste the intelligence of our people. When people with diverse leadership strengths, ways of solving problems, feel like they can't contribute because their strengths are undervalued, they're gonna start to disengage, or worse, burn out from exhaustion from trying to shapeshift and become this rock star. Inclusion, after all, isn't just about increasing the numbers of underrepresented populations in companies and institutions. Inclusion is about creating contexts where people of diverse leadership strengths, diverse ways of solving problems, diverse ways of showing up are equally leveraged. This is profound inclusiveness. This is the next frontier for diversity, equity, and inclusion work. So how do we get there? How do we create cultures of profound inclusiveness? In a nutshell, it takes a systemic approach, one that works on your leaders, as well as on the company culture. I'm proposing 4 steps. The first step involves providing strength assessments to your leaders so that they're really clear on what their leadership strengths are, as well as what the leadership strengths are of every single person on their teams. The second step involves providing leadership development coaching for your leaders. Leaders are gonna need a safe and confidential space to process through issues related to self-doubt, perfectionism, even imposter syndrome. The third step involves leveling up the leadership skills of your people. One way to do that can look like teaching your leaders to take more of a coaching approach to management versus a traditional approach to management. For example, a traditional approach to management might dictate that I command my employees, that I keep them in line, whereas a coaching approach to management requires that I ask much more open-ended questions, that I stay curious longer, to elicit insight, awareness, and just create this context for profound inclusiveness. Now, I did say this was a systemic approach, so we can't just stop at working on your leaders alone. We actually have to work on the company culture. One approach to this is to have everybody in the company serve as a bias interrupter. So folks would be prepared and trained to mitigate or interrupt bias when they see it at some of the common fault lines like hiring and promotion. This will require that corporations commit to making unconscious bias conscious and to intentionally cultivating a culture where courageous conversations are normal and constructive feedback is normal. The harmful impact of rockstar bias is prevalent, but it's not intractable. If companies can commit to investing in coaching and training so leaders understand how to leverage the strengths of people that they work with, that will directly impact the strength of the company as a whole. When people feel seen, they treat their jobs differently. And when leaders are equipped to take more of a coaching approach to management, that creates the context for profound inclusiveness. And that can change the face of corporate America forever. That's the kind of change I want to see. And we can do it. And we can do it together. Thank you.